The script guru that I feel closest to is Chris Vogler. Worked with him because he came to some workshops we had in Spain a few years back. And he worked at Disney. He worked on The Lion King. He was a student of folklore and myth. And he became very interested in a book by a folklorist, a student of folks and myth called Joseph Campbell, who had written a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, which is not about cinema at all. It's about ancient myths. And the premise of Joseph Campbell is that all ancient mythologies and indeed fairy tales have common characteristics in their storytelling structure and composition. So he takes Greek myths, Roman stories, Egyptian, the Bible, I can't remember, all from all over the world, and finds common characteristics in those that are shared in terms of storytelling. And Chris Vogler's genius moment was, hey, that applies to cinema. And so he wrote a 7-page memo saying, I think I found the structure for the scripts that we're trying to tell based on Joseph Campbell. And this memo became like the holy grail in Hollywood that was immediately passed around all the studios. It's, we found it, we found out how to tell stories. He applies the system of Joseph Campbell to the structure of screenplays, and Hollywood films adapted that. And if you look at Lion King and if you look at Lord of the Rings, if you look at Star Wars, they fit in extremely closely to this formula that he did. But then he got into trouble like 2 or 3 years later because they wrote, they put huge amounts of money into films that appeared to follow the formula and nobody wanted to see them. There was a film called Howard the Duck. Nobody remembers it. It cost millions and millions and millions and it followed the formula and it wasn't any good. So this is why I say treat it lightly, any of these systems, because it does not guarantee that your story will be good. It just means that there will be a solid structure, but it might lack the inspiration and originality and spark and passion that makes us love movies. So having been told that he'd saved Hollywood, he was then told that he'd ruined Hollywood by making everybody sort of repeat the formula, and suddenly it didn't work. He's very amusing about that. He has different stages of a hero's journey. The first stage is called the ordinary world. The hero, uneasy, uncomfortable or unaware, is introduced sympathetically so the audience can identify with the situation or dilemma. The hero is shown against a background of environment, heredity and personal history. Some kind of polarity in the hero's life is pulling in different directions and causing stress. The next stage is the call to adventure. Something shakes up the situation, either from external pressures or from something rising up from deep within, so the hero must face the beginnings of change, giving in him the sense that he needs to go somewhere else and leave the ordinary world. Then something that's very important and is often forgotten, the refusal of the call. The hero feels the fear of the unknown and tries to turn away from the adventure, however briefly. Alternately, another character may express the uncertainty and danger ahead. So in Star Wars, Han Solo, is it Han Solo? Doesn't want to go on the mission. They need to reject it. They want to, you have to have hesitation. The meeting with the mentor. The hero comes across a seasoned traveller of the world who gives him or her training, equipment or advice that will help on the journey. Or the hero reaches within to a source of courage and wisdom. I mean, it's Doesn't have to be an old wizard in a hat. In American Beauty, it's the kid who's selling drugs across the road. It's the drug dealer. Crossing the threshold, at the end of Act 1, the hero commits to leaving the ordinary world and entering a new region or condition with unfamiliar rules and values. Tests allies and enemies. The hero is tested and sorts out allegiances in the special world. You meet different characters, you have different conflicts, you have different obstacles. Some of them are friends, some of them are enemies. Approach to the inmost cave. The hero and newfound allies prepare for the major challenge in the special world. Indiana Jones has identified he needs to get into the innermost cave, literally, to find the Holy Grail. The ordeal. Near the middle of the story, the hero enters a central space in the special world and confronts death or faces his or her greatest fear. Out of the moment of death comes a new life. You'll see in many adventure films, Lord of the Rings and Star Wars are very easy examples because they follow the classical structure so much. Luke Skywalker, is it Luke Skywalker? And so he appears to die in this sort of mud stuff. So you think the hero is dead, and then miraculously they come up. The reward. The hero takes possession of the treasure won by facing death. There may be celebration, but there is also danger of losing the treasure again. Harrison Ford has picked up the Holy Grail, but there's problems ahead. The road back, about 3/4 of the way through the story, the hero is driven to complete the adventure, leaving the special world to be sure the treasure is brought home. Often a chase scene signals the urgency and danger of the mission. In thrillers and adventure films, you have what Hitchcock called the MacGuffin. The MacGuffin is the secret disc, the plutonium, the gold, the uranium that the hero has to take before the bad guys get it. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just, it was in North by Northwest that Hitchcock identified it as the MacGuffin, which I think is uranium in that film, but it's just a little box, doesn't really matter. The resurrection. At the climax, the hero is severely tested once more on the threshold of home. He or she is purified by a last sacrifice, another moment of death and rebirth, but on a higher and more complete level. By the hero's action, the polarities that were in conflict at the beginning are finally resolved. That's usually the big battle with the big enemy. So in James Bond, they meet the guy who's trying to take over the world. In Errol Flynn movies, he meets the evil warlord. And Darth Vader. You have the big climactic battle with the bad guy. Finally, return with the elixir. The hero returns home or continues the journey bearing some element of the treasure that has the power to transform the world as the hero has been transformed. Often they come back to the ordinary world, or they might continue their journey. Now, this all sounds like very classical stuff, but it's amazing how much you can adapt that to your story set in Tbilisi or here with contemporary characters. There are links.